Happy Easter weekend, everybody. All right, so this is Easter weekend, and so we're going to talk about Easter. Okay, first thing, I'm going to get this right out of the way and just irritate the hell out of some so-called academic elitist neo-pagan oodalollies. No, Easter is not based on any version of the ancient pagan, Roman, Turkish, anything named after a fertility individual of Oyster, nor is it a spring equinox celebration either. Okay, Easter is not in any way derived from some pseudo-imaginary pagan fertility goddess running naked through the woods trying to get her freak on. Easter is simply put a variant, it's not even a variant. It is taken from the Feast of Passover, which was a Jewish Hebrew holiday based on the emancipation or the escape of slaves from Egypt. Okay, that in and of itself is historically and archaeologically difficult to prove. There appears to be evidence indicating that at some point a bunch of Hebrews left Egypt during the time of Ramses. There is archaeological and historical evidence that the plagues of the Passover of Exodus actually happened, although in a much less dramatic way than were shown in movies. But this may not have coincided. Historically speaking, it's difficult to prove, but then without a time machine, most historic things are difficult to prove. If people don't write stuff down and keep it in the historical record, then the proof becomes difficult to trace. And in point of fact, China, the culture and community of China, not the Communist Party, is our oldest continuous historic record. Because everywhere else, we had major changes of societal structures that stopped or just that either stopped recording what had happened before, or they stopped recording what the losing side of a war had, or they didn't record it in the first place and it was all an oral tradition. All of that beside the point. Easter is taken from Passover. It's not directly taken from Passover because it's a week difference. The reason that it is a week offset is because in the alleged time of Christ, I can't believe I have to say that. That's bullshit, okay? Yes, the Romans did not write down and historically record that a person named Jesus existed. They didn't historically record that Joe the plumber existed either. But by the time of Christ, the Feast of Passover had become a week-long celebration in the Jewish community, Hebrew community, Israelite community. Pick your poison on the name. There's another linguistic problem. So you have the actual Feast of Passover, which was a week ago. Then you had this week of celebration, and during the course of that time, Pontius Pilate had his trial thing that if a person reads the scriptures, he wanted nothing to do with, because the allegations against the person known as Jesus simply did not violate Roman law. But by the time that it comes down to it, the Jewish people, the Hebrew people, had been celebrating for a week. And if you look at the historic record, that means they literally woke up in the morning, started drinking and feasting, were drunk as all get out by freaking lunch, and this just kept going on every day for a whole week, that these people were all cram-packed into the city where they didn't normally reside. Picture Mardi Gras on steroids. We're about, and they're almost there. So, by the time it gets to a week later, you've got the Roman governor saying, I don't have a problem, but you people have a problem. You know what? Hey, as is Roman law, I can let one of these prisoners go, and here are the people to choose from. That way it's not on me, it's on you. Somebody starts screaming, crucify him. And Pilate's like, yeah, I'm out. The drunken mob went with what was being screamed the loudest because they were drunk and whatever. That is what Easter is based on. The whole resurrection 3 days later on Easter Sunday. Dude gets crucified on Friday. That counts as one day in the Hebrew calendar. Day 2, Saturday. Day 3, Sunday. Rises again. Whether a person believes that story or not is irrelevant. The fact is that the Christian narrative matches a Hebrew narrative found throughout the Old Testament that this was going to happen. Alright, the stories go together. Historically and archaeologically speaking, Easter as we know it comes from the martyrdom of Jesus of Nazareth as given us by the Christian Bible. The addition of the Easter bunny and Easter eggs is a very recent addition, historically speaking. Easter eggs and Easter bunnies did not exist 500 years ago. You can look it up. It's in the historical record. That is a completely separate thing added later by allegedly enlightened people. Yeah, people who were so enlightened that they actually punished attempted suicide with death. Yeah, that's really enlightened. They added, because Passover and thereby Easter occur in the spring, when the bunnies start coming out, when the chickens start laying more eggs because the sun comes up. That's another biological function. Look up chicken raising during the winter, round about the fall, equinox. Solstices are summer and winter, equinoxes are spring and fall. After the fall equinox, when the sun starts spending less time in the northern hemisphere, chickens in the northern hemisphere start laying fewer eggs. There's less food, less sunlight, less activity, less egg laying. In the spring, the birds, chickens specifically, birds in general, start laying more eggs. Robins show up. Does this have anything to do with the Middle East? No, it doesn't. Because birds in sunlight don't care at that latitude. But when Christianity moves into Europe, you're going to wind up with different cultural additions. Christmas trees have nothing to do with Christmas. That one I will totally give to the inclusion of the winter solstice, because historically and archaeologically you can show the connection. With Easter, there is no connection to any pagan rituals. The Easter bunny and Easter eggs are a later addition that has nothing to do with converting pagans. So, if we can just accept that and get past it, then we can roll on to the next item. The next item on the agenda. Yeah, we're going back to Easter. What's wrong with the idea of Easter? Nothing. Even from a so-called allegedly enlightened intellectual point, it represents redemption. The thought that Jesus died on the cross, takes all the sins of the world, dies on the cross, revives on Sunday, bringing back redemption for transgressions. You're sorry, you get redeemed. In today's world, we could really use that. Right now, we have people going around saying, oh, here's a video of you when you were 17 singing along to some other older song that we claim has a connection to racism. Therefore, you are an irredeemable racist and must be destroyed. Well, second person comes back and says, hey, they were 17. They didn't know any better. They didn't know that that particular punk rock group from northern England with the 8-8 on the bottom of a combat boot had anything to do with white supremacy. They're sorry, they didn't mean to have. And quite literally, the name of the group escapes me, but the person who made their album cover with the combat boot with the 8-8 on the bottom of it had no idea that that was a neo-Nazi symbolism. He apologized on behalf of it, but that group is still tainted by the allegation that they had a neo-Nazi symbol on their album cover. What about redemption? What about the fact that, hey, we're sorry we did not know? That album cover is no longer in circulation because it was removed at the behest of the group against racism movement. Punk against racism. People, it's not even a matter of people change. It's a matter of people repent. People find out something is wrong. Maybe they didn't know it was wrong. Maybe they knew it was wrong and they changed. Maybe any number of things. But the spirit of Easter is a spirit of redemption. The ability that not only do you say, hey, I did something that was not socially acceptable, I plan to live a socially acceptable life, and having the rest of the community say, okay, you are redeemed. The spirit of Easter is the spirit of redemption, allowing people to start each new day with a new beginning. Not trying to destroy them, not trying to culture them, and even the ability to accept that whatever you're doing might not be right. Socialism is not right. More correctly, socialism, or working for the good of society, mutually benefiting each other. Yeah, that's something that happens in small groups like families. Find a 16-year-old in America who has to work for a living. Yeah, mommy and daddy work for them, or mommy or daddy, or whatever the flock their family is. But on a grand social scale, as a totality, it doesn't work because you have a percentage of population who will sit back and say, why should I do anything when everyone else will do it for me? Eventually, maybe they will repent and they will be redeemed and go back to being part of the productive lifestyle because the rest of us don't want to leave them to die in the street. Hope everybody has a happy Easter. I'm out.